Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Brian. In today's video we're going to practice cutting dovetails, or I'm going to introduce and go through an exercise to help you practice laying out and cutting a single dovetail. So what I've done already is I've marked a dovetail on this workpiece, and the shoulder for our dovetail is going to be at the thickness of our mating workpiece. So we're going to cut this by using our dovetail saw. So we remember to let the saw do all the work, don't try to force it. So we've now cut down to the shoulder line on both sides, and now we need to cut across with another saw. So for this I'm using a crosscut saw, or you can also use a carcass saw. We next line up the edges of our boards here, and then we use the thickness of this board along with the angles, and we just use our marking knife to scribe out transcribe those down. For this marking gauge, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the shoulder, and I'm using the thickness of our mating workpiece, and so I know how far this will tell me how far I need to cut. I use my marking gauge to mark the shoulder, or how far I need to cut. I use my pencil here to make this a little more visible. So that's going to be the depth. I can do this all the way around. So now I'm going to have these two pieces that are going to be cut to fit like that. What I want is I want to draw a line that's perpendicular to this end along this length now. I've now marked all of my sides, and we're going to put this in the vise and cut it so it will mate with our dovetail that we've already cut. Our last step, now that we made those cuts to the shoulder, is to remove the waste that is in between here. So we don't have a lot of work to do with our chisels. What we're going to do is we're going to first remove as much waste as possible by using a coping saw to cut. We're going to start in here, we're going to put our coping saw in and try to cut along something like that, and then when we're done we're going to reverse this coping saw and try to cut as much as possible in that direction, and this will leave us very little to remove by hand with the chisel. So we want to put our coping saw into the saw kerf, and it will tend to get stuck, but if you're moving back and forth, you can slide this down and it will tend not to get stuck. And if you feel it getting stuck, you just continue moving it back and forth, and then we're going to make a turn. I'm about at that line. I almost went too sharp. We still have a small portion to eliminate and now we're ready to reverse our direction. We did all right, not perfect along that line, but we're not going to have much to remove with the chisel. So now we're going to try to go into this corner and go all the way up to that saw kerf. after flipping it over, we are now trying to finish off the shoulder. And one thing I forgot to say is that we don't want to necessarily hold this flat against there. We want a slight degree, maybe a degree or two angle in between there. And this is going to allow the center of this to be recessed a little bit in comparison to the shoulder, which will make our joint look better. In our final step, we just put the two pieces together, and then we can look at our joint and evaluate it. How did we do? And you can see that we are imperfect, and that's why we practice. But there are a few things I would like to point out here. The first is that with a little cleanup, I could get this gap to go away here. Similarly here you can see that there are things I didn't quite trim flush that are here on the edges that I could clean out with my chisel and make this a better fit. So with a little more chisel work, we got it a little closer, albeit not perfect. But this is why we practice, and that's the goal of this exercise, is to practice cutting dovetails and just do it over and over and try to get better at it.